Hey listeners, it's Toby, your host of this Nigerian Life podcast. I'm taking a little detour from my solo thoughts to bring you a special series that I call What Makes You Tick. I recorded these conversations in the summer of 2025 simply to understand the people in my life a bit more deeply and to explore what kind of stories we had around us. And what I discovered is that there are remarkable stories all around. We just have to be curious enough to notice them. And so, in honor of these women and in honor of Women's History Month this March, I'm sharing some of these stories with you. The stories of womanhood in different forms. We have Simile Olua, who speaks about motherhood, new age Nigerian grandparents, and the village that we were promised. We have Dija, who speaks about being a Muslim woman in technology, growing up in a supportive family that nurtured her curiosity and love for science. And we have Rose on healing her mind and body with exercise and why women, especially in midlife, should be lifting weights. And there's Lala, who speaks about raising smart children in a digital age and navigating dating as a single mom. Thank you to these incredible women for trusting me with their stories. I hope as you listen, you find yourself reflecting on your own experiences and what makes you tick. And now for today's episode.
Hello, Khadija. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Toby, for inviting me. I'm very excited to be part of your podcast.
How have you been?
I've been doing great. I thank God. Alhamdulillah, as we say. It's been a very challenging year in different ways, but also a year that has given me an opportunity to grow and reflect a lot. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. I've missed talking to you. I've missed seeing your smiley face. I've missed us working together.
Oh, me too. Yeah, what it was such an interesting experience because we come from different, I would say, sort of backgrounds, but we ended up working on such impactful projects together.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much from you.
Oh gosh, same here. I've learned a lot from you as well, which makes me really excited to be having this conversation with you. So, I know that you're a tech girly, as we say colloquially, and you worked in tech for at least the past 10 years that I'm aware of. What are some of your earliest memories of being a girl who loved science?
My earliest memories is when I was in primary school. Primary school, I assume you have the same concept in Nigeria, is for children between the age of 7 to 14. And at that age, I was a very curious child and I was very keen to understand why things are the way they are, especially around my environment. I grew up in a small town called Mombasa, which is an island, and we were surrounded by a very unique ecosystem where I had an opportunity to learn about fish and the sea and the beach. So I always had that curiosity about nature and wanting to understand why different things look different and how they're different from us as human beings. So I would say that would be my core memory of, me being fascinated by science. And then I also grew up in a time where the movies were quite impactful in a childhood. And I was a big fan of Harry Potter movies. And my favorite character to this day is Hermione Granger, which was the female. Yeah, she was the female in the gang, and her personality reminded me of myself so much in terms of always being open to asking questions, being inquisitive, but people finding that being a bit annoying because your curiosity sometimes can get you in trouble. So I really looked up to her, and she's part of my core memories of being a girl who's interested in science. Yeah.
Lovely. So I know that you being someone who is a fan of the Harry Potter series, how many of the books in the series have you read, or have you read everything?
No, I haven't read everything. I actually didn't know about the books until I saw the movies. So I worked backwards, and so far I've read two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't read any myself. I've only seen some of the movies. Yeah.
Yes, really interesting franchise.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Would you say you were encouraged or discouraged to pursue science? How did you get into working in tech? So walk me through your secondary school. How did you pick your courses to study in university? And how did you land in your job at Google?
I'm glad you asked that, because part of the reason why I enjoyed being a girl in science is because I was very much supported by my family, and they gave me an opportunity to explore my environment. I grew up in a conservative Muslim family, and as a girl, we are expected to act in a certain way. And because my father was very supportive of my curiosity, and people like my grandmother, who's been championing education for girls for many years, I found that their support helped me build the confidence to continue being curious about understanding the different sciences. So when I was in high school, I remember my father telling me, "Oh, girls are really smart. They are really good at biology and chemistry and things like that." And, it really shaped how I looked at sciences when I was in high school. And I ended up being a science student in high school. I selected all science courses as part of my finals. And I really enjoyed, learning and researching in the school that I was in high school. And that also helped develop my keen interest in science. And for computers specifically, my father introduced me to computers at a very young age. When I was 10, I would go with him when he was required to do a computer course for his own professional development, and he would take me with him to those classes. And I also got an opportunity to learn like computer basics at a very young age, which made me not shy away from using computers or interacting with computers later in my life. So when I finished high school, I really wanted to do computer science. However, my father really wanted me to do something medical related, and he was trying to persuade me to do a pharmacy degree, which is something that I had considered. But I'm so glad I ended up picking computer science, which I did in Catholic University of Eastern Africa here in Nairobi, because that opportunity was able to unlock so many other opportunities, which have now become the career that I've had. In university, I was one of the four girls in my class. We graduated a class of 100, and most of the time in like the pure computer science units in university, we were four girls in the class. So uh, always felt like a minority. I, being a Black Muslim, also had its own challenges in university, because the perception of what Muslims look like usually is very different in Kenyan society. So I remember a few times that people were expecting an Arab girl in class, and when they saw my name on the register and stuff like that. But I really had a great university experience. First generation graduates in my family. So it was very exciting to explore other cultures outside my community and making friends from different walks of lives. And now, even now, as a mentor, when I talk to the students that I mentor, I always tell them the university experience is something that you can't get anywhere else, because that's the first place where you're going to meet people from all walks of life who have lived a different life from yours, and you get an opportunity to learn so much about the world in a university campus setting.
That's a wonderful story. And speaking of being a Muslim, a Black Muslim in Kenya, how did being a Kenyan girl shape your experience in science? Would you say it made things easier or harder for you?
It's made my experience for sure, because I grew up with certain values growing up in a Muslim family that have been able to help me throughout my career in leadership, in collaboration, in negotiations and making deals. And I think the ability to understand and be aware of your morals and your principles brings a certain level of awareness and discernment when you are trying to build an impactful career. Some of the challenges I would say that I've faced is mostly internal, not externally. I think the hardest mountain I've ever had to climb in my life is building my self confidence and learning to believe in myself. So, that level of self awareness is something that I had to build and work towards as much as I had to build any other technical skill or other skills that I needed for my work.
Hmm. Did the boys in your class compete with you?
I wouldn't say compete, but definitely underestimated. To compete requires you to think someone is your equal.
Hmm. Yes.
So most of the time it was, I felt, I want to say this is from my own feelings, and awareness. I felt like I was underestimated. Even when I was graduating, I graduated on time, with good honors. A lot of people are like, oh my God, these four girls, so the four of us who were part of that class, we all graduated on time and we did really well. So the guys are like, oh my God, these girls, we didn't see it coming, which was very satisfying in many ways. But I have felt an unconscious bias, yeah, around, work environments and engaging with people in different capacity in my career, which at first you find yourself gaslighting yourself, like they obviously didn't mean it that way, but it's something that you have taken with stride and looked at it as, an opportunity to help someone see the world in a different way. Because we are not every tech person is a white dude from California who loves surfing.
Exactly.
And we are in now in this kind of spaces as black folk, where we can be able to show that our individuality, our culture is part of the tech ecosystem, and we are part of the solutions that are available or can be enabled by tech. Yeah.
That's great. Speaking of career, we both met at Google, although we did different paths to get there. And we've both been part of very impactful programs on the startup side, on the developer side, and too many to count. How would you describe your experience. I know that there are differences in both countries, me from the Nigeria side and you from the Kenya side. As a woman, when you show up to some of these events where you are the one hosting or facilitating, what are some of the reactions that you get when you are talking to a group which is most typically made up of more guys than girls?
Tech bros.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been quite an interesting career, to be honest. I joined Google in 2019. Before that, I used to run my own startup. I was a startup founder with a developer agency where we were building different digital products for mobile applications, websites, managing social media. And then I joined corporate, and I realized that as a young person, the way that you engage, with each other in a work setting sets you up for how people are able to respect you. It's kind of like a respectability politics in corporate entities. So I quickly had to learn how I communicate, how I engage with people of different levels, whether it's senior levels, mid management. And one of my favorite things about working with Google is working with the different departments or functions and, piecing everything together in the different projects for the bigger goal, which is usually around the Google mission. And my experience working in the developer ecosystems team specifically was very unique in the sense that I used to work in a business ops department when I first joined Google. And then I joined developer ecosystems 3 years later. That's under engineering. So I didn't realize the difference between engaging with technical teams and engaging with the business teams in terms of how the work environment is. In business teams, most of the time, decisions require multiple people, to agree. So there's a lot of negotiating and managing strategic management or strategic communication. And in developer ecosystem, it was such a friendly and open environment where everything is collaborative. So because of the culture of the organization, it felt like a very open community where everyone is welcome, it's open and inclusive. And then later, I came to realize some of the challenges when it comes to career growth when you're in that kind of environment, because when you're working in engineering, the way the teams are built, it makes it very hard, I would say, for people to build a holistic lifestyle where you have good work life balance. So when you get to a certain point at a certain age where you want to grow other aspects of your life, whether it's building a family, spending more time in other aspects of your life, it becomes very difficult in technical roles because, the way the I would say software life cycle is, it requires you to commit a bit more time to your job. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. In even much more detail than I asked you. Okay. I know that AI has been getting a lot of attention now. Everybody's talking AI. We're building with AI. We're training people in skills to use AI. But I think regular people, most people find AI intimidating. How do you think we can encourage them, especially women, to embrace it in their daily lives?
Very interesting question. Thank you. I like the fact that this question is specific to the African landscape. I would say that with the AI innovation space right now. Africa is in an opportunity where we are part of the innovation experience right from the beginning of the innovation. So I usually like to think of it in two ways. There's the work that needs to be done um, at ecosystem level in terms of policy, enterprise adoption, and how organizations around Africa are building using AI. And then there is the consumer side where how Africans get to engage with AI. So there is an opportunity for AI upskilling for the workforce, for entrepreneurs, for businesses. And there's also an opportunity for governments to work together across Africa to bring a holistic policy direction around what are our thoughts of AI? How would we as Africans like to engage with AI technology developments and innovations? And how does that align to our values and culture as Africa? What would be priority in Africa? There's been a lot of amazing use cases around AI work in Africa, especially in industries like healthcare and climate action and agriculture, which is exciting. I just think that there is an urgent need. Urgent probably won't be the right word because it's a bit alarmist, but I would say there is a need for short-term actionable progress for African nations in terms of developing AI policy around data privacy and ethical considerations of building AI models and ensuring that as Africans, because we do have a seat on the table, we are making our voice heard in this new technological advancement.
Yeah, I agree. We are still pretty much not very active in the development of how AI adoption looks like for our continent here, and specifically for regular people. How do you use it in your daily life? Like, what are some of your tasks that you automate using AI? Or even with raising your son, for example, are there things that you do? Are there things that make you worried? You mentioned the data privacy and ethical considerations. Are there things around it that makes you worried being a parent?
I would start with usage. I use AI for almost everything. Okay. Like in my house, I have a washing machine that I use and I love. I use every day, and it has an app where I can preset washes, have different functions for different fabrics. So that's my day-to-day AI love. And that's what I want AI to do for me, to make housework easier for me as a working mom.
Yeah.
And in other ways, every day in my career, I use AI, and I'm very passionate about helping people understand and demystifying what AI means, because there's a lot of fear mongering, which I would say, given our African environment, is justifiable. However, there's also a lot of opportunities for us as Africans in this AI bubble. Some of the things that I do is I developed a curriculum on my own, and I offer introductory trainings for business people to understand what AI is and how AI is being used in their industries. So the different use cases in their different industries and how that translates to a return on investment for businesses. As a parent, I am very worried of data privacy and how I introduce the internet and any technology to my son. We had made a conscious decision not to have him online. He appears on some of my pictures on my socials, but we are very protective of him when it comes to how we portray his childhood on the internet, just because he is born in an digital era. So he's going to have his own digital footprint, and we would like to let him have that at the appropriate time. And we don't think that a toddler needs to be on the internet. So even how he engages with entertainment is different. I used to have an iPad. I would give him an iPad. I stopped. No phones. So he watches YouTube and pre-selected kids cartoons on TV when it's screen time, and that's a very specific number of hours that he has every day, and then everything else is playing, with his toys and outside. So no devices for him at this time. Yeah.
I agree. I agree to limited devices until a certain age when they're a bit more mature to make choices and, to be trusted to do the right thing to an extent.
Yes.
So well done.
Thank you.
Moving on to your favorite TikToks now. What's a trend that you would start if you could on TikTok?
That I would start myself
Yeah, if you could.
on TikTok. The kind of content that I love on TikTok is feel good content. And if there's a trend I would start, it would be raising awareness for something. For example, it could be the environment and maybe start a hashtag. I don't know. I'm not that cool, Tommy.
So no dancing for you, no dancing and no weird pranks.
Been challenged to a dance challenge on TikTok once, and I tried it. And I think one of my favorite things about TikTok is it gives you an opportunity to, really build your personality beyond the everyday stuff. You're FYP, you're like, what am I doing with my life? I need a hope.
So what's your current TikTok obsession?
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday.
I'm not on TikTok, but I have come across those clips on YouTube and on Instagram as well.
God, and it's
Hilarious.
the human mind fascinates me. How people can take one thing and interpret it in 1 million ways. Colin, I love it. I love it so much. I love TikTok, and I love that they added a STEM feature. You can literally, for us STEM fans, I would say we're called STEM fans or geeks, you can go to a specific tab on TikTok and watch all your different types of sciences. And it's lecturers, professors, researchers, scientists, doctors talking about their different fields. And every day you get to learn something different.
Cool. So what have you learned from TikTok that you applied in your life?
Other than cooking recipes, obviously, and DIY projects, I think what I've been doing that is constructive is so I'm planning to do my MBA, and I need to sit for an exam called a GMAT.
Oh my God, yes. I remember GMAT.
You remember? And there is so much GMAT related content on TikTok. Now I've been revising on TikTok. I've been doing all my quant analysis prep on TikTok so that I don't feel guilty just scrolling. It's one of my things that I like doing now.
I like that, and I wish you all the best. I know that you've been on that path to getting your second master's. I think we talked about one a couple of years ago, and
No, this is my first one. Easily.
is it?
Yes. Yes. It's one of those things I've postponed. I've been talking about,
Yeah,
going back to school for a while.
yeah.
Oh.
Because I saw our trip to Kigali, we did like a tour of
Of the schools.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're getting to do it now. It's good. Well, we need more. We want to do well. So tell me one DIY thing that you've learned on TikTok.
The one
It doesn't have to be serious. It could just be the most mundane activity that makes you
trust me is
happy.
the most mundane activity, but it's a tip I wish everybody learned, and it's from Clean Talk about cleaning your house. So if you're looking for ways to keep your house clean and pest free, like bugs, flies, fruit flies, and cockroaches, you mix 2 tablespoons of detergent, 2 tablespoons of Dettol disinfectant, and 1 liter of water, and you use that to spray everywhere. It keeps everything spotless and clean, and it's environmentally friendly.
Really, that's all. I'll try it though. I'll kuku try it because I've been dealing with some bugs recently. I think it's because of the rainy season in Lagos. There's been more bugs and mosquitoes. I will try it. Thanks for sharing.
Try. Yeah, that's one DIY I learned that actually works because, people say a lot of things on the internet.
True. Okay. Speaking of the internet and children and protecting them, their privacy, etc., do you see the world differently as a mom now compared to when you were a youngster?
Yes, yes. I think in the last few years, the post COVID internet world is very different. There's a lot more exposure of information and not enough mechanisms to help people understand if information is correct or not. So I'm very conscious of how my child interacts online and the things that he learns from the internet. I must say, in the last few years, there's been significant progress on online safety, and a lot of organizations, the big tech organizations, have invested in safety measures for the users and families. But it's still an individual responsibility for every parent to make sure that their child, if they're going online or interacting with people online, it's under supervision, and you understand the importance of confidentiality and data privacy. There's a lot that still needs to be done in terms of governance and data protection, especially in African states. However, there are so many measures that parents can take in order to keep their children safe online. My personal rule is that a child who's below 10 years has no reason to be online. And by online, I mean those games where, they can be able to interact with other people o- over the internet, or they are able to access the internet by themselves on whatever entertainment or games they're playing. So for parents, it's very important for us to be aware of what kind of content your children have access to, and also make sure that we have an understanding, or we have our own digital literacy and digital media literacy, so that we can be able to steward our children in the right way.
Yes, I agree with that. It's important for parents to be digital literate and find information that will help them understand the things going on online, because it empowers them to protect their children better. Yeah.
Yeah, the internet is a scary place because you get access to everything. It's a place where you can learn and have access to libraries, in different parts of the world. At the same time, it's a place where people who prey on children use different tools to have access to them. So you have to understand both what is good and what is bad about the use of the internet.
Yeah. So, winding down our conversation, I'm going to ask you two questions. The first is, what's currently bringing you joy? And the second is, what are you looking forward to, in life, for the rest of the year, all of that?
What is currently bringing me joy is I've gotten to an age where I'm very aware of the blessing that is time and staying present. So, what I'm finding joy in is time that I'm having now with my loved ones, getting to connect with my friends. Like when you texted me, I was so excited. So, that awareness of what you have now is a gift has been giving me random sparks of joy, watching my son grow or say something gives me joy. Getting an opportunity to talk with friends is my joy. The mundane, everyday acts of connection, I would say.
Yeah.
And what I'm looking forward to the next phase of my career. I have had an opportunity to learn so much in the last decade of my career, and I am feeling more confident in my leadership skills. And I have been preparing myself by acquiring new skills and qualifications that would make me a better leader, and also looking at opportunities to have new job titles that give me an opportunity to lead. And that's why I'm also working towards my MBA. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to, because I want to prove to myself that I can be able to do something just for me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wish you all the success with your MBA, with raising your son, enjoying your beautiful city of Nairobi, Mombasa. Thank you so much, Dija. This was a fantastic conversation. I've enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you so much, Toby, for the opportunity. I'm so glad that you're back creating content, because you're really good at this. You really have a beautiful way of writing. And I hope you continue to share your skills and your passion with us.
Appreciate you.